There is a very interesting story also on the front page of a Standard that we want to see. This is from Auditor-General's report. Auditors drill on how actually 10 billion shillings went to waste. This is well covered on page 5 of a Standard today. 2.2 billion shillings, Augusta Westland AW139 helicopter SYNPS crashed after 4 months and no accident report was provided to facilitate compensation. Also 1.5 billion shillings aircraft procured from Royal Jordanian Air Force but could not fly. 460 million shillings construction of a building for food processing factory at Kenyatta Barracks, Gilgil. 373 million shillings food processing equipment yet to be supplied to Defence Ministry. 6.3 billion shillings squandered on loan for Ken Ren Chemical and Fertilizer, a project that never took off. 578 million shillings proposed upgrading of Odaya District Hospital, and 516 million shillings stalled construction of Chancery residence in Islamabad. This is what the Auditor General is highlighting, and the Star is carrying this particular also headline: Jubilee can't account for 40 billion shillings. This is what the Auditor General is saying. Presidency used up 1.1 billion shillings in confidential expenditures last year. Secret Interior Ministry ran account spent 8.7 billion shillings since Uhuru Ruto 2013. And this story also, you can follow it on page 4 and 5 of the Star. So let's begin with you, Boni Khalwale, on this particular revelation from the Auditor General. First of all, this particular 2.2 billion shillings that went to the Augusta Westland AW139 helicopter that crashed after 4 months and no accident report so far has been provided to facilitate compensation. And we saw that particular aircraft that actually went down in Madare, if you may remember. Yeah. And up to today, we've never been told what really happened. We've never gotten any reporters yet. And yet, we actually cashed in 2.2 billion shillings for that particular aircraft.
What saddens me is not the figures we're seeing here, but it's because even as they appear today, a reader might think this is the first time it is coming up. For example, the issue of Kenren. Unknown to the public, this is a project that has been siphoning funds, not just during the Kenyatta government, Uhuru Kenyatta government, but even during the Grand Coalition government and during the Moi government. This thing is a cash cow that has always been left there.
Yes.
Succeeding auditors-general have been saying that this thing of Kenren must be brought to a closure, up to and including my Committee of Public Accounts. This was something that was imagined when former President Mwai Kibaki was Minister for Finance, when they wanted to construct a fertilizer producing plant in Kenya. It was not done, but then money had been borrowed. Now, when the money was borrowed, the Attorney General failed to advise the government on time to pay off that debt. The people who loaned us the money went to the international bank, not to the international court, and sought redress. They were given an award. So it was never challenged. The government has had the opportunity over the years to go and renegotiate. The government has had the opportunity to go and defend, but they did not, because the companies involved were not necessarily owned by foreigners. They were owned by locals who continue to get paid. The issue of aircrafts, up to and including ships that were bought during the Grand Coalition government, is the one that we are now talking about. I remember the Public Accounts Committee, then chaired by Uhuru Kenyatta. They actually pursued this thing, including that one of ships, and said this should be brought to a stop. So the long and short of what I'm saying is that reports made by the Auditor General are never acted upon, because the person who is supposed to act upon them is the executive, and because the executive is part of the pilferage of public funds, they wouldn't want to investigate themselves. That's why they don't act on it. Instead, what do? They go to Parliament, thank you very much, Senator, and they ask you, we have tyranny of numbers. Let's amend the Public Audit Act so that we reduce the powers of the Auditor-General.
All right, but even if we look at that, the Augusta Westland,
Yes.
that particular helicopter, I think, first of all, it was erroneous for us to buy such an aircraft, given the terrain of this country. And I think there was also a debate on whether we should get this particular aircraft in the country, because it is not really built for, very, should we say, corrosive environment like we do have here in the country, very dusty. And that's why it went down, in a heap in Madare. And we've never gotten any report from this. And I think also that then the Minister of Interior
maybe before you give
was advised against it.
Before you give him, let me be a bit clearer
Yes.
on this issue of the aircraft.
Yes.
Kenyans, we are saying that the aircraft was procured from the Air Force of Jordan. According to public procurement law, you are not supposed to procure a Mutumba. If, for example, a governor wanted to purchase a four-wheel drive Land Cruiser and he goes and buys a Mutumba, he has breached the law. That governor can actually go to jail. So, by dint of purchasing an aircraft which was Mutumba, it simply means deliberately from the word go, somebody wanted to steal this money. They should have gone to the manufacturers. Even if they wanted this model of aircraft, they should have gone to the manufacturers and not go to Mutumba. By the way, I understand these aircrafts have been grounded in Isili. They are being used for spare parts. Wanaingia hapo kidogo, wanachokora, wanachukua ka spare part, wanaenda wanaweka kwa ingine. That is how useless we are. Thank God Kenya has never gone to war. We would never, the Air Force would never help this country. Yeah. This is because even the military chiefs are also corrupt.
So we saw the launch of this aircraft, as brand new.
Yes.
So was that a sugar coating? Because we don't really have the actual report, but of course,
I don't.
The investigation that have been done, by some journalists is that they came to the fore that this aircraft were not really new, as Boni Khalwale was saying, but they were presented to be as new. Even we have some of, I think. Representative from the manufacturing coming down during the launch, and we saw it with the Interior Minister.
I'm not so sure about the whole politics of this aircraft, how it was procured. I think the farthest that I know is what Boni Khalwale here claims is true, that first it was procured from Royal Jordanian Air Force.
Yes.
Just like the other day I saw, we were trying to procure, I think, military aircraft also from the United States Air Force, and we ran into headwinds with the Senate of the United States because they felt the price was really high, and therefore they could pick out that something illegal was about to take place. What I'd wish to dwell my mind on is this kind of stories that we keep on hearing. There are three quick things that I want to say. Number one, I want to commend the Auditor-General for raising some of these issues, because without raising them, then as good citizens, we will never have the knowledge of what goes on. Government is a juggernaut. It's a huge, humongous thing that many a times we as citizens, we are not able to understand what happens. So when Auditor-General raises these questions, three things come to mind. One, there's the issue of the audit queries that first he raises. An audit query, for simple understanding, is that he comes back to you and says, as a ministry, you claim to have used, say, X amount of shillings, taxpayers' money, to buy item YZ. Please provide the documentary proof to show that you actually purchased it. And in many times, if you've run any organization, either a small business or even a government, you know that this is standard auditing practice. And many of these questions are sometimes answered where you say, okay, here are the receipts and this is explanation. Then you move on to the second level, which is wastage, which is unfortunately something that successive governments have continued to struggle with, and give Boni. The few are the moments when Boni rises above our politics of NASA and Jubilee. But on this one, I must give it to him that at least he considered and say, this dragon of corruption is something that we've struggled with in successive governments. And wastage is a big problem, because the question, this thing that Boni highlighted so clearly about the Kenren chemical and fertilizer, I have taken time to read the report, even the report which Boni Khalwale did then as a PAC chairman. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be acting on these reports. And the saddest thing is that even thanks to the 2010 constitution, where we thought we had given sufficient powers to Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and Director of Public Prosecution, we still appear to be struggling with this. And when reading this report, I went on further even to check the individual ministries that are responsible for this pilferage, and I could pick out that some of the departments that are responsible for this wastage include the very notorious one, Ministry of Health. We go back to the debate that we've had. The reason why they cannot buy a new radiotherapy machine is because they keep on wasting money in such as the endeavors as this. But then again, sad to me is that even the judiciary is not spared in our national sport of public pilferage, because we are told the Lodwar, Law Court, you have the Nyando, Muhoroni, Nyamira, all these are audit queries that the auditor-general is raising. So you have a situation where you have a country that, despite the fact where you have the judiciary, you have the executive, you have the legislature, when you do an audit of government spending across all these three branches, no one is missing. Each and every of this department is properly represented, wasting our taxpayers' money, and therefore it begs the question of us as Kenyans, you that is charged to lead an institution, do we really love this country? Okay. Or have we resigned to the fact and say that when you're given public office, steal and pilferage as much as you can, nobody will ever catch up with you? Let us seize even. And I think I once saw somebody put forth an argument that perhaps this generation of ours, this one that includes me, Boni Khalwale, and you, Debarl the Saint, all of us without fail have given up on this fight, and therefore maybe we owe it to the next generation, our children now, to begin teaching them that there was a generation that included Debarl, Khalwale, Aaron Cheruiyot. They were not able to slay the dragon that is corruption. Please,
thank you.
Aim to become better.
All right.
I would like
Boni,
to just add something
a rejoinder, yes.
A small thing. For the first time, Cheruiyot has come out as the Senator of the Republic of Kenya. You are now attacking corruption. It's a good thing.
Why would I defend it?
Let me just tell Kenyans, especially Kenyans from Mount Kenya, about the 578 million that was lost and was intended to upgrade Othaya District Hospital. If you go there, it is a crying shame. I remember as chairman of public accounts, we spoke to this thing. We visited Othaya District Hospital as a committee, and we made recommendations. And if the Uhuru government had acted, because it came after the Kibaki government, had acted on these recommendations, the hospital would be complete by now and being used. What happened? Because of funds following the executive and not following plans, as soon as, once Kibaki was in office, funds started following this project because Kibaki was coming from Nyeri. When he left, despite our recommendations, when Uhuru came into office, he didn't want funds to go and complete the project in Othaya. Instead, he started a similar project in Katundu. So the one he started when he was in office, President Uhuru has completed the one of Katundu.
Yes.
But they have refused to finish the one over there. What should have been done ordinarily would have been that, because he was succeeding the Grand Coalition government, President Uhuru should have completed the Othaya district upgrade program before starting the one of Katundu. But thanks to corruption, he chose the one at home.
That was, I hope that one was completed.
Which one?
This one for Gatundu.
Katundu.
Yeah.
You're the one in Parliament. Go and visit it. If I go
Anyway,
there, I'll be going there to look for
There's
votes.
something I want to say, but just allow me.
Yeah, please.
Something that I want to say, just on this. You know, just while wondering, and this is something that really bothers my mind every time it comes up, that are we so helpless as a country in regards to matters corruption that there is absolutely nothing that you can do about it. Yesterday, just while seated in my office, I read about this thing. I've seen the Nation has given, the Standard actually, has covered the story on page 7 about a looming sort of scandal at Youth Fund. Youth Fund is something that I'm extremely passionate about, because as a young leader, I know the power and the potential that is in that organization. And as an individual, as a leader, one of the promises that I have always made and I have kept is that on yearly basis, I go back to my county with officials from this institution and we advance loans to young people. So when I saw this, it really troubled my mind. But then I remembered something, that the fellow charged with the chairmanship of this institution is a friend of mine, one good fellow called Ronnie Osumba. So I picked up my phone and I called him and said, Ronnie Osumba, you are a Desmond Tutu fellow. One of the virtues and hallmarks of members of this fellowship is that they have they take a pledge to uphold transformational leadership in Africa. And I asked him about this scandal. He did explain to me what had happened and what they had been able to unravel. And I just asked him a simple question. Are you pledging to me, as your fellow young person, that for the very first time, that we can use this institution of yours as a test tube of what is supposed to happen in government institutions when you find public officials who've dipped their hands in public till? And he gave me a pledge, and I really hope that he will live through to it, because he told me that the officers that were responsible for this, because what actually happened is that they had clerks at head office who were cheeky and went on and registered youth organizations, and each and every time after the list of the organizations that have youth organizations that have gone through the vetting and they've applied, on the final list, what they would cheekily do is that they will amend the list and send it to youth groups, quote unquote, because these are their own organization. And he has given me the promise that we will get to the bottom of it and you will see somebody go to jail. Because it is only the time that you see a public official in handcuffs heading to a prison and the doors of prison closing behind them and saying goodbye, that is the only time we'll say we have finally slayed the ghost of corruption. Because Kenyans, the reason they steal is that they love a good life. There's no good life in committee. And so long as you continue stealing and enjoying a good life, nobody will ever stop it.
All right, the question will be then, why should we be, out there sometimes with a pail in hand asking for, aid from other countries, seeking out also bonds from other countries, yet we cannot really account for such monies here? Right? That will be the question again, that effectively we've not utilized the money that we're actually borrowing in the first place. And we bet maybe some of these money that they should be in other dockets is maybe some of these Eurobonds that we've been asking for, right? And we've not effectively told Wananchi what they were used for.
Exactly.
So 40 good billion shillings cannot be accounted for. Here we are again, looking for a second, Eurobond.
This actually,
where are we headed? It doesn't make any sense as a country.
This is actually a fifth of what we borrowed last week at the London Stock Exchange, because we borrowed 200 billion.
It doesn't matter the amount, we're still borrowing.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'm supporting your point, Debarl.
Yes.
I'm saying what you're saying is actually right. I'm not opposed to what you're saying. I'm saying this 40 billion is a fifth of the amount that we borrowed at the London Stock Exchange last week. Therefore, it is extremely shameful. It is my sincere hope, though, there's no place of hope in leadership. Leadership is about acting. That those charged with the responsibility. We did put in a man from your village, and we thought he's a man of a cloth.
Who is this?
Eliud Wabukala, yes, at ethics and anti-corruption. If you happen to bump into him, Boni Khalwale, maybe because you can speak to him in a native language that he can understand. Okay. Please ask him, how far are we doing in regards to this? What are the challenges? Actually at ESCC also, the other thing that we need to question, are we having a Lily Koros kind of issue, whereby we've always thought we had PLO, we changed him, we had the gentleman that was there before, as chair before Wabukala came in. We keep on changing the heads of ESCC, hoping that this time we will get the results that we desire. It is time that we asked of ourselves serious questions, whether to completely do away with this institution, or if there are things that they require of us that haven't been given to them in terms of funding, legislation. But I don't think it is for lack of any of that. That we need to question.
Senator, you are asking me a very difficult thing to do, that I go and talk to Bishop. You cannot expect a priest to fight corruption. Fighting corruption is very complex.
But we were in Parliament when
how
you
this
approved his name.
How this priest, who I love very much and who is one of our elders from our community, how he ended up there, it was not because they were looking for somebody competent to fight corruption at EACC. Jubilee was trying to placate the Luya community that now we have an appointee from your midst who can deliver. They wanted somebody there who would not be effective. You were in Senate by then. You had just won your by-election. You remember the circumstances under which the previous people who were in the office left.
Yeah.
So this was just pure choreography. It had nothing by way of head-handing.
But you didn't
for an effective person.
But you didn't raise an objection at that point in Parliament. And therefore, the very same way you sent me to Lily Koros and said, please go back to your community and find us somebody who can run a hospital.
Yes.
I also want to send you back to your community.
Because Jubilee is not our government.
Please go back to Western and say, give us a son who can fight corruption.
Jubilee is not our government.
No, it doesn't matter.
It's your government.
But you have good
rapport with us. Let me tell you.
The other day, Boni, you are a good man the other day when, especially when you featured in the newspaper and they said you are being considered a cabinet appointee. You are very calm on Jubilee. But since this list finally came out, you become so hard. What is it, Boni?
I don't understand Jubilee. You go in the papers, you say you want to give Khalwale a job.
But everything about you're saying.
Wait, can I speak? you say you want to give Khalwale a job. Before I am given the job, I'm being expected to respond for a promise that I'm being given a job. When the job is not given, you are saying you used to behave like this when the job was coming. For God's sake, I understand government. The office of the president does not make appointments through the Star newspapers. The president calls for a press conference and reads out the names of the people who have made the list of the cabinet.
No.
Anyway, the point I wanted to make is this. On a serious note, the issue of Eurobond. Senator, you are here. And God willing, if we have good life, we're going to be talking here for the next few months. Please, we want to see you in Parliament interrogating the second Eurobond. We want you next week to come and tell us that you have raised on the floor of the House. And Minister Rotich has come and showed you the items, the lists of projects that are going to be funded by the second Eurobond. We are being told that of that money, already 40 to 50% is being used to go and pay loans. Yes.
And the question also, Boni Khalwale, we should raise is, we were given to understand that the Eurobond, first of all, there was a roadshow that was done, of course, in Europe. We wanted to know what was the cost of this roadshow.
Yes.
Yeah, and was it passed by Parliament, and approved, or who maybe will have been the approving authority for this particular roadshow? Because that has not been told so far, how much expenditure was on the roadshow. Secondly, the second Eurobond that we are being told about, we know about the National Debt Registrar, right? That every Kenyan has the right to know what loan the country is subscribing to, or maybe getting into. In this particular point, the Eurobond is such a case. But of course, they need to be aware. We need to know, has this been highlighted in the National Debt Register? Do we know about it? Do you know about it? Even the first Eurobond, it was not really highlighted in the first place. Is Parliament also, how is Parliament involved in approving? Because we just know that, yes, Kenya is going for the second Eurobond. This is it. Negotiations were done. None of maybe the legislators were aware about this particular bonds. Then it has been approved, stamped. Things are going okie-dokie for everyone. But we want to know, what is the process? What is the place of the National Debt Register? What is the place of Parliament in sanctioning or maybe approving some of these particular loans? How are we as citizens involved in this as public participation, because at the end of the day, I'll be paying for this particular loan. My children will be paying for this particular, my grandchildren will be paying for this particular loan. So these are questions that we need to raise, because it seems now we are, after Eurobond, we know again we'll go for the Sukuk bond. Right? Of course, the Qatar was here, and of course, Sukuk bond also has been highlighted as well. We are always waiting for the other shoe to drop as far as loans are concerned. These are questions that we need to be told as Kenyans. You agree? Yes.
There are three things that I want to answer you.
Yes.
At least to the best of my knowledge. And one of the challenge that I give to you, Debarl, because you run this show on a weekly basis, is perhaps so that you don't keep asking these questions to politicians like us. Of course, I can answer you to the level that I know. What I want you to do, this is your assignment.
Thank you.
Please get the PS for Treasury. One good fellow called, I think, Thuge. Dr. Thuge, Kamau Thuge, if I get his name correctly. Please get him on your show, together with critics of this administration, not political critics like
I agree with you.
Boni Khalwale. Us will handle the politics.
Yeah, we are looking at the politics side of it.
Yes.
Because that
please
we have in the market.
Get him
talked about the
together with people. With people who don't agree with the kind of financial decisions that they're making, so that you can afford Kenyans a fair latitude to imbibe good thoughts about whether it is a good idea to borrow or not to borrow on this very show. But coming back to your questions, one, when you talk about expenditure of the roadshow, what I know is that how government works, and Boni Khalwale, a former cabinet minister, knows this, that government institutions present their request to Parliament in terms of funding, and they are attached with it a budget. So long as they stick within the budget constraints of what they had requested for, nothing is wrong and nothing is illegal. We do not know. I for sure do not have the figures to know how much this expenditure on the roadshow did cost the taxpayers, but I hope it is within what they had budgeted for, because by law they are allowed. When you speak about the national debt register, I think also on this one, this station NTV, a very credible media house, will do us more favor as a country if they went on and remember that. You remember that time when we had this debate and Prime Minister Raila kept on asking these questions about Eurobond, and the cabinet secretary Henry Rotich did invite him to Treasury and said, please, our books are open to your audit. You're a senior citizen, a man that is respectable. But then he was reminded that Raila was not asking these questions for his own, and they gave a very good explanation and said, okay, in the coming days, we shall be publishing project by project, cost by cost, of what Eurobond 1 achieved. And they did put a whole, I think it was a 2-pager in the Daily Nation, as well as other newspapers that are circulated, explaining project by project what Eurobond 1 was supposed to have done. What you need to do as a credible media house is to bring forth that advert that they put up and check on the status of those projects. How many of them have been completed? How many are on schedule? How many are still on budget? And how many have blew their budget and are still calling on for more funds? Then we can begin to have now a more informed debate and say, these projects, extremely important capital investment projects that we are having as a country, how beneficial are they to us? Because the debate, Debarl, is not whether to borrow or not to borrow. At any given time, it is not a crime to borrow. Governments do borrow from across the world. The point of debate is, what are we doing with this money that you're borrowing? Are we doing things that will be beneficial to us as a country, or whether in future we shall be paying for loans which we cannot? Are we funding white elephant projects? And therefore, it is upon you to do that investigation and provide for us. Then at that point, we can move on to Eurobond number 2, and we hope that by that time, Treasury will have furnished us, because they haven't, as a legislature, furnished Parliament with a list of projects. I know there have been a question about it, and they have promised to do so in the coming few days, where they'll say, this is the amount that we borrowed, and this is how we intend to invest it. Then at that point, we'll have a good debate about it.
Thank you. You know, you raised a very important issue. You have refused to respond.
Which one?
The issue of debt management. The prerequisite approvals.
Oh, yeah. That was the third point that I needed.
Can I tell you, members of the public must know that there is something called ceiling for borrowing. That ceiling, the government sits and says, this is the ceiling. When you want to then go beyond the ceiling, the Minister for Finance is supposed to formally approach Parliament and request that I would like to borrow more.
X amount.
Yeah, we want to increase our debt burden. Could you tell us whether when you borrowed 275 billion shillings as Eurobond 1 and 202 billion shillings as Eurobond 2, whether Rotich through Duale, leader of the majority, and through, what is the new leader these days in the Senate, whether he approached Parliament and requested that
Murkomen?
Murkomen. Yeah, Murkomen talks more on Twitter than in Parliament. Whether he sought their intervention to move the two houses for this ceiling to be lifted. That is very important.
You know,
secondly, you'll respond to me. I'm just about to conclude. Secondly, the issue of Raila Odinga. When Raila Odinga made that inquiry, the attempt by Rotich to invite him to his office was a demonstration of the fact that Rotich doesn't know how how government operates. Under the current constitution, it is the right of the public to know everything about public debt, about borrowing, and it was therefore not incumbent upon Raila Odinga to go to the office of Rotich. It is the responsibility of Rotich. In fact, they should have released a prospectus to accompany the 275 billion shillings and the 202. They should have been accompanied by a prospectus that says this money is going to do ABCD. Now, for purposes of optics, Kenyans want to see the 275 billion shillings, dear Kenyans, that was borrowed. What you are supposed to see, the only way I can liken to is as follows. That Thika superhighway, which we all see, it cost us 27 billion shillings. So if 275 billion shillings had been converted into projects, it would have constructed 10 Thika superhighway. They would have done one in Nairobi, complete, one in former Western Province, another one in Nyanza, another one in Eastern, another one in Lower East, Upper Eastern, Lower Eastern, North Rift, South Rift, and Coast. Everybody would have had a superhighway. Instead, the money was used to line people's pockets. The money was used to fund political aspirations of Jubilee, and this is why you have run us into debt. The people of this country, and specifically the people of Kakamega, who I speak for first, they will never forgive you, because thanks to that misadventure, the people of Kakamega, Debarl, you come from Kakamega yourself, they owe all the people of Kakamega, they owe 230 billion shillings. They're supposed to pay that. Where will they get from? Our ken is collapsed. Each individual is 100,000.
Now, you know, Debarl, you're being very unfair.
But let me ask you,
because
he raises questions about Rotich appearing in Parliament.
Why did
you've not really answered
Yes.
if he has done that or he hasn't.
which is what I wanted to come
Fantastic.
to. You know, because you're allowing Boni to be repetitive and simplistic about a very serious issue.
Okay.
You know, Boni, if you had bothered to listen and not been angling at an opportunity to speak and make political brownie points out of this situation, is that I answered and said that one, on this very newspaper, Nation, as well as other daily circulated newspapers, Treasury did put a list and the prospectus that you are asking about of all the projects that were to be funded by Eurobond 1.
Give us three.
The question
Give us three of them, so that Wananchi can hear.
Let him finish.
Boni Khalwale.
Okay, finish.
When you were speaking, did I speak?
I've kept quiet.
Please do. You're a senior.
I'm quiet now.
Yeah,
But give us three.
I will. No problem. At the tail end, I will.
Please do. We are stuck for time.
when that information has gone out, what that is expected of you as a credible media house to do is to check for us whether what they are alleging is true, because you owe a duty to Kenyans to inform us whether what is being alleged by government is true or false. Please check, because government alleges that they built the standard gauge railway from Mombasa to Nairobi, and now it's on its way to Naivasha. Please check if it is there or it is not there. They claim to have sunk about 20 new wells of geothermal power and added about 800 megawatts to the national grid. Please check for us. They claim, to be doing the Turkana wind project in upper northern part of the country. Please check for us if these things are there. And therefore, at that point, we begin to have a credible argument where we say the list and the prospectus of items that Treasury gave us for Eurobond 1, 70% are true, 30% are not true. So that we move to Eurobond 2 and begin to question. On answering the questions that you raised, first of all, as a senior legislator, Boni Khalwale, you do know that at the Senate, these budgetary ceilings for national revenue and how appropriations for national government are done do not come to the Senate. What comes to us is a division of revenue under counties and county allocation. That is within the purview of Senate. So Senate is completely left out.
Right, thank you.
But under National Assembly, I can here confirm that CS Henry Rotich, when presenting his budget policy statement, something that is being that was done in Parliament last week for the financial year of 2018-2019, explains in great detail and great length to say that this is what we intend to do as a government. This is what we will fund from local revenue. This is the amount that we will borrow.
All right, thank you.
Please allow us. So those approvals for Eurobond 1 was sought and approved by this very house that we sit in. Boni Khalwale was a member, though in the Senate, not in the National Assembly. For Eurobond 2, the same has been done.
Order.
Yes, Boni.
It is not a question of presenting budgetary estimates to Parliament. The minister is supposed to move the House through a specific motion.
Yes.
That the Minister of Finance wishes to seek for the approval of this House so that the debt ceiling can be raised from where it is now to become this. Parliament debates, accepts or rejects. If it had taken place, Kenyans would be knowing. It has not.
I think
instead you gave budget.
I think you're the only man in Jerusalem, as they say, Boni Khalwale. If you do not remember that very afternoon having an extremely heated debate on whether it was prudent of us to borrow Eurobond 1 or not prudent. That debate was had in Parliament, where you were a member then. Only that you were in Senate and it was had in National Assembly, like I have said. Even for this same...
So do we have the names of these motions?
No, it's not a motion.
I think you go to Parliament. Mheshimiwa should go to Parliament. When he comes next week, you come and table here a copy of that motion and we shall be satisfied.
Hansard.
We want to be sure that the minister did seek and get approval to commit Kenyans to these hundreds of billions of shillings.
No problem. Yes. Very easy thing to do.
Yes.
Very easy thing to do.
So
but also Debarl,
estimates. We will do our homework as well, but we need to
I will do mine.
Approvals done.
I will do mine.
For the second as well.
Yes.
I will do mine and get it for you.
What did members of Parliament say?
I will do mine.
Don't refer to advertisements in newspapers. In fact, this morning, if you look in all the papers, you have something called something government. What do you call that thing?
My government.
My government.
The advertising. Yeah.
This is what you are referring to. This thing of yours called my government.
But what is written inside Boni Khalwale? Is it true or false?
I don't read it because I know these are lies.
No. The reason Boni has no time is because all the time he has now is to light small fires in NASA. He's causing a lot of problems in NASA. And that is why they want to chase him out of NASA.
Thank you.
Because to find him anywhere is difficult.
Right, we shall discuss NASA. But I'll be remiss if you don't also weigh in as we're winding up on this particular editorial cartoon that we have in the Daily Nation today. This is where we have most of our panelists today in Mombasa, right? And of course, you can see they've been depicted. That is the Daily Nation. You have it there, Boni Khalwale. Yeah, so there is no resist or boycott in seminars, benchmarkings, etc., etc. That is what Otieno and Wanjiko are asking there. It's the hefty allowances, my dear. And of course, post-election seminar 2018, Mombasa. This is where Otiende Amolo is this morning.
You know, I came so early.
Because this is where also Senator Kemario Matangi is today. He's sent a text and he cannot really, he's delayed in Mombasa. Of course, this is the induction that is, and we're saying this, of course, with our tongues family in cheeks. And this is what Mulene has captured for us today.
You know what I wanted to say is that I came so early this morning.
The question is, do you need to go to Mombasa for this?
Yes, I will answer you, but allow me to make my point.
Why can't we have these conferences here?
The reason I came...
Hotel, English Point, Marina,
The reason I came so early is because I wanted to see if I'll find Jared Okello here and Otiende Amolo, because I want to believe the name of a conference is, the title of a conference is Post-Election Seminar, meaning that we are past that season of election. According to them, we didn't have an election, and therefore they should have been here. But the temptation to be in Mombasa, Otiende Amolo could not resist it. The temptation to be in Mombasa, Jared Okello could not say no. Not even the threat of appearing to have moved on, you know, and they have always told us that they will not move on. You know, what this conference is discussing is actually how we move on as a country from this election. And I expected that NASA members will not show up. They'll give it a wide berth as they have been giving to parliamentary sessions. But, you know, of course, when it is Mombasa, people must show up. Even Boni Khalwale in his days, don't be fooled by his answer. I used to find him already there a day before. Nothing. You know? Yeah. So, no, I'm saying, just in case, you know, because I know your character, and I know you will fry these members. But even in your days as a member of parliament, you never used to miss these seminars. All right. Your question is, are we whether it's supposed to be Mombasa? I think
let's have the cartoon, please.
It's about time. It's about time we also thought of building up other tourism circuits, like in places like Western Kenya, Kakamega, for example, where Boni Khalwale comes from.
When we're talking about expenditure and stuff like that, and we're going to Mombasa, and you're picking up actually 5-star hotels. Why can't we have this particular seminars? The cost of flight as we're going to the coast. Why can't we have this here in Nairobi with like also some of the senators were doing last week, right?
Yeah.
Hotel Intercontinental and some of the hotels around
but they
town
did
can actually serve the same purpose.
Give credit to them. They did their induction for the very first time in Nairobi, here at Intercontinental. So they should have the National Assembly. So in the spirit of supporting the entire country,
thank you.
You know, you move around, but don't go to the same destination.
I want to congratulate
your closing
Senator
remarks.
Cheruiyot for being here and not being in Mombasa. Senator, the point is, are members of parliament working? The answer is specifically to those ones of NASA, no. The members of parliament of NASA must go to parliament. Even if they want to speak about the stolen election, they should do it from parliament.
Thank you.
That is the highest platform that they could ever have. Let me address
briefly as we're winding up. Yes.
Honorable Shosion, my friend, and Honorable Milemba. Both of them teachers' bosses. Teachers were very excited when their top teachers ended up in parliament. Why have they not put this government to task about the 17 billion shillings that teachers were awarded, the retired teachers? You remember? You come from a teaching background. I'm told your parents are teachers.
Yeah.
Yes. Your retired parents are owed 17 billion shillings. So Sion is there. He has been leading teachers with twigs in Kericho and all over. But now he has the national platform and Mlemba. Why are they not raising that issue? Finally, I want to urge all members of parliament to go to parliament. Even this so-called proposed amendment of the constitution, even the social injustice that we are seeking for as NASA, is best articulated from the floor of parliament while we address other avenues.
All right, thank you. Your closing remarks, sir.
Why have you chosen to discuss anything and everything, Debarl, but the main news? Boni Khalwale here has been trending the whole week since he appeared in that interview on Wednesday evening and said some things that did not please the ODM base of NASA. You should have questioned him and let him give us a proper explanation.
We'll have the whole.
But you've been promising that we'll have this debate for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, we'll have this when the whole NASA team also is here.
We want to understand this fire that Boni Khalwale is lighting. Is it still in the attempt that maybe Jubilee may look favorably on him, because that is what ODM are claiming? But anyway, my point in regards to this cartoon is that we should look on to build other tourism circuits, not Mombasa alone, because when you have a conference of this magnitude come to your town, as it has done to Mombasa, there's a lot that you end up doing in terms of promoting the local economy and the business. So perhaps maybe in future you consider towns like Kisumu, if Jubilee members will be safe to being there, and Kakamega, at least there I'm sure Boni Khalwale will not organize anything illegal, you know. So as time goes by, we should build other circuits.